The glass doors of Mercy General Hospital slid open at 11:47 p.m., admitting a blast of frigid December air and a woman who looked like she'd been carrying the world on her shoulders for far too long. Sarah Chen's scrubs were wrinkled from a double shift, her dark hair escaping its ponytail in wisps that clung to her tired face. She'd been a nurse for 8 years, but tonight exhaustion had settled into her bones in a way that made every step feel like waiting through water. All she wanted was to clock out, drive home to her tiny apartment, and maybe, just maybe, sleep for more than 4 hours straight. She didn't know that in exactly 3 minutes, her entire life would change forever. The emergency room hummed with its usual chaotic symphony, monitors beeping, doctors conferring in urgent whispers, families huddled together in prayer. Sarah barely registered it anymore. The soundtrack of crisis had become white noise. She stopped at the nurses, stationed to grab her coat when she heard the commotion near the VIP wing, a section of the hospital she rarely entered, reserved for patients who could afford privacy and privilege. "Someone get Dr. Morrison!" a voice shouted. "We need him now!" Sarah's instincts kicked in before her mind could protest. She dropped her coat and moved toward the sound, her fatigue momentarily forgotten. A crowd of people in expensive suits clustered around room 407, their faces masks of controlled panic. Through the doorway, she glimpsed a teenage boy on the bed. Surrounded by 3 doctors, she recognized as some of the hospital's finest. "What's happening?" she asked a nearby nurse, Maria, who looked equally concerned. "It's Marcus Wellington," Maria whispered, and Sarah felt her breath catch. Everyone knew that name. James Wellington, tech billionaire, philanthropist, the man whose company had revolutionized artificial intelligence. This was his son. He collapsed during a charity event. They've been working on him for 20 minutes, but something's wrong. Really wrong. Sarah should have walked away. This wasn't her patient, wasn't her wing, wasn't her place to interfere. The best doctors in the state were already in that room. What could she possibly offer? But something made her step closer to the doorway. Inside, she could see the boy, Marcus, maybe 16 or 17, pale as death itself, his chest rising and falling in shallow, desperate gasps. His lips had taken on a bluish tint that made Sarah's stomach clench. Dr. Morrison, the head of emergency medicine, barked orders while checking vitals. Another doctor adjusted the oxygen mask. A third examined a tablet displaying the boy's chart. "BP dropping," someone announced. 80 over 50 and falling. "Increase the fluids," Dr. Morrison commanded. "And someone page cardiology." "Already did. They're in surgery. Won't be available for at least 40 minutes. 40 minutes. Sarah could hear the unspoken truth in the room. This boy might not have 40 minutes. James Wellington stood in the corner, his billion-dollar empire meaningless in this moment. His usually composed face had crumbled, revealing the raw terror of a father watching his child slip away. His wife clung to his arm, tears streaming silently down her face. Sarah's eyes swept the scene, taking in details the way she'd been trained to do. The monitors, the medication bags, the boy's positioning, the color of his skin, the distension of his neck veins. Her heart stopped. "His neck veins," she whispered, too quiet for anyone to hear over the chaos. She looked again, her training clicking into place like tumblers in a lock. The boy's jugular veins were bulging, swollen, visible even from the doorway. His breathing had that particular quality she'd seen before, years ago during her rotation in the trauma unit. And his face, not just pale, but with that specific shade that spoke of oxygen deprivation despite the mask, pumping air into his lungs. "Oh, God," she breathed. Every instinct screamed at her to stay quiet, stay back, let the experienced doctors handle it. Who was she to question them? A nobody nurse at the end of a double shift, presuming to know better than physicians who'd forgotten more than she'd ever learned. But that boy was dying. Her feet moved before she'd made a conscious decision. She pushed through the doorway, past the suited security guards, past the boundaries of protocol and hierarchy. "Excuse me," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I think—" "Not now, nurse," Dr. Morrison said without looking up, his hands busy adjusting an IV line. "We need space. He has tension pneumothorax," Sarah said louder, more forcefully. "Look at his neck veins. Listen to his right lung sounds. He needs immediate decompression." The room went silent. Every head turned toward her. Dr. Morrison's face darkened with irritation. "Nurse Chen, this is not appropriate." "Please," Sarah interrupted, and she hated the desperation in her voice. But she pushed forward anyway. "Just check his lung sounds. Right side, please." Something in her tone, or perhaps the specific clinical detail, made Dr. Morrison pause. He stared at her for a long moment, and Sarah could see him weighing his options. Waste precious seconds humoring a presumptuous nurse, or dismiss her and continue with his current treatment plan. Time seemed to stretch impossibly thin. Then Dr. Morrison grabbed his stethoscope and moved to the boy's right side. He listened. His expression changed instantly, flooding with realization and horror. "Absent breath sounds, right side," he confirmed, his voice sharp with urgency. "She's right. How did we miss—" He didn't finish the question. "I need a 14-gauge needle now." "We need to decompress immediately." The room exploded into coordinated action. A nurse thrust the necessary equipment into Dr. Morrison's hands. He positioned the needle at the precise point on Marcus's chest. Second, intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, and with practiced precision, inserted it. The hiss of escaping air was audible, and within seconds Marcus's breathing changed. The shallow, desperate gasps gave way to deeper, more regular breaths. Color began returning to his lips. The monitors showed his blood pressure stabilizing, climbing back toward normal ranges. Sarah's legs nearly gave out with relief. She grabbed the doorframe for support, suddenly aware that she was shaking. "That's it," Dr. Morrison murmured, monitoring the boy's response. "Come on, son." "That's it." Marcus's eyes fluttered open, confused and frightened, but alive. Undeniably, miraculously alive. The mother's sob of relief echoed through the room. James Wellington's face transformed, disbelief and joy washing over his features in waves. He looked at his son, then at Dr. Morrison, then, with an intensity that made Sarah want to disappear, directly at her. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. Sarah opened her mouth, but no words came out. Suddenly, the magnitude of what had just happened crashed over her. She'd stepped so far outside her bounds, had questioned senior physicians, had pushed her way into a situation where she absolutely didn't belong. "That's Sarah Chen," Dr. Morrison said, and there was something new in his voice, respect, or maybe wonder. "She's one of our nurses, and she just saved your son's life." The aftermath was a blur. More doctors arrived to stabilize. Marcus properly and arranged transfer to the ICU. Sarah tried to slip away, to retreat back to anonymity, but James Wellington stopped her with a gentle hand on her arm. "Wait," he said. "Please, I need to know. How did you see it? How did you know?" Sarah swallowed hard. "I worked trauma for 2 years before transferring to general care. We saw a lot of chest injuries, car accidents, falls. The signs were there. The neck veins, the breathing pattern, the way his oxygen saturation kept dropping despite the mask. Tension pneumothorax happens when air gets trapped in the chest cavity and compresses the lung. It can be hard to catch, especially in a chaotic situation, especially when you're looking for other causes first." "But you caught it," Wellington said softly, "when everyone else missed it." Sarah struggled to explain. "I was looking from the outside. Sometimes that gives you perspective." Wellington's wife approached, her eyes red but radiant with gratitude. "You gave me my son back," she whispered. "How can we ever thank you?" "I was just doing my job," Sarah said, uncomfortable with the attention. "No," Dr. Morrison interjected, and Sarah was surprised to see contrition on his face. "You did more than your job. You stepped up when it mattered, even when it was uncomfortable. Even when you risked professional consequences. That takes courage." In the days that followed, Sarah tried to return to her normal routine, but normal had fundamentally shifted. The hospital administration called her in, not to reprimand her as she'd feared, but to commend her. Dr. Morrison personally thanked her and requested she join the ER team, if she was interested, but it was 2 weeks later on Christmas Eve when the real surprise came. Sarah arrived at work to find an envelope waiting for her at the nurse's station. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. "Dear Sarah, Marcus is home, healthy, and driving his mother crazy with typical teenage energy. We are told he'll make a complete recovery. Because of you, he'll have the chance to live his life, to make his own mistakes, to find his own purpose. I've spent my career believing that the most important innovations happen in labs and boardrooms. You reminded me that the most important moments happen in the spaces between protocol and instinct, when someone has the courage to speak up. You wouldn't accept thanks, but I hope you'll accept this. A full scholarship to any nursing or medical program you choose, if you wish to pursue it. And this, a donation in your name to Mercy General's Nursing Scholarship Fund, so others like you can follow their calling. You saw what others overlooked. You acted when it mattered most. That's not just nursing, that's heroism. With profound gratitude, James Wellington. Sarah's hands trembled as she read. Attached was information about a scholarship program established in her name and documentation of a $10 million donation to support nursing education. But the part that made her cry, really cry, was the photograph included in the envelope. Marcus Wellington, smiling and healthy, holding a sign that read, "Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to make this second chance count." That night, as Sarah drove home through the twinkling Christmas lights, she thought about the randomness of it all. If she'd left work 5 minutes earlier, if she hadn't heard the commotion, if she hadn't found the courage to speak up despite her fears, everything would be different. A family would be shattered. A young man's potential would be lost. She'd spent so much of her career feeling invisible, feeling like just another tired nurse in an endless sea of medical professionals. But she realized now that significance isn't about titles or recognition. It's about showing up, paying attention, and having the courage to act when every instinct tells you to stay silent. Sometimes the smallest voice in the room has the most important thing to say. Sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the one who sees most clearly. And sometimes, Sarah thought as she pulled into her apartment complex, kindness and courage matter more than any credential or title. Sometimes being human, fully, bravely human, is the most powerful thing we can be.